Hello and welcome to Ask an SEO. This is a new format for us. This one is video, but we've been doing this for quite a few years, answering reader questions, one per week. And this week we have with us Adam Riemer from Adam Riemer Marketing, adamriemer.me. And the question that people have for you this week comes from Faith, Adam. And it's Faith has a few keywords that are ranking on the 4th or 5th page of Google. They've been stable there for about a year, and she would like to know, what can she do to improve those rankings now?
Okay, that's a good question and comes up way too often. I have to deal with that with a lot of clients. Well, not deal with it, but I get to solve that problem for a lot of clients. And basically, the very first thing I do is I'll take a tool, whether it's Authority Labs or SEMrush. I think Ahrefs does this too. And I'll look to see, do we have competing pages in those positions? And is there one like with an indent after it maybe? And from there, I'll be like, okay, well, do both of these pages need to exist? If there is nothing competing and it's just one page there, I start to look at the page experience. And I say, okay, why is this not the best experience for the user or for the search query? And then we start to address that. You can look at, do we properly explain the concept? Is the article as good as it could be? Is it formatted correctly? Could it use some bulking up? Could it use sometimes... One thing I've had to do a lot recently, there's a case study on my website right now, actually, recently. I have to delete most of the copy because people just wrote copy to hit a minimum word count. By actually reducing it and just sharing the actual information, we've been able to pop our clients up to the top positions from there. Another option you can do, if everything's perfect, your copy's great, you can start to look at page speed and core web vitals. That's not going to move the needle much, but when it does, it's going to help you convert more traffic and decrease your bounce rate. Another thing you can try to do is build some internal links from contextually relevant content. You don't want to just link to that page off of keywords for the sake of doing it. Build out your content strategy. Look for previous articles. If you're on WordPress, for example, you can log in, click on posts, and then click on pages. You do this twice and type in the keyword or a similar version of the keyword, and that'll pull up a list of the actual pages that mention this, and you can start building words that way. You can also use search operators where you'll do site, put your URL in, and then in quotation marks, you'll put in the keyword phrase, and it'll scan through your website for mentions of that specific keyword or phrase throughout the site. And now you have a list of pages you can build internal links from. You can also try doing PR work. So if your content or if your page is genuinely good enough, then you can probably attract backlinks from major media, possibly bloggers. If you're local, go for local websites, complementary companies, and try to do it that way. It won't be an immediate result, but you will start to see climbing if it's good. If it's a product page and you're not the manufacturer, it doesn't make sense to give you an increase or a backlink. So what you want to do then is you want to create content that's worth linking to and get backlinks that way and pass the authority to the page that way. Those are all different ways you can pop up from position or page 4 and 5 to the front page of Google and possibly overtake it. The last thing to look at, probably should be done earlier, is the schema. A lot of people forget that schema.org does update their libraries regularly. So you'll want to go in and say, do I have everything here? Did I add a video? And is there video object schema? Do I have FAQs on here? Or did I add some? And is there FAQ schema? If it's listed as article, because maybe you're a publisher, there's probably has part, and you can nest it in the has part portion of the schema. And those are all ways you can actually take your page from the 4th and 5th page of Google and bump it up to page 1 while achieving some featured rich results.
That is awesome. That's great information, Adam. I have a couple of follow-up questions for you.
Yeah,
I was wondering, when you're evaluating page experience, the experience that any given user is having on that website and on that specific page, do you use tools to help you with that, or is it a largely manual process? And what are you looking for?
Depends what I'm looking at on the page specifically. If I notice it's just going really slow, then I'll use webpagetest.org. That's my first go-to tool because the waterfall is very easy to dissect, and they've now added in they've now added in core web vitals that's similar to what you'll see in Search Console. So that way I can say, okay, this is rendering first, this is coming, or this is being pulled in first before we actually start to render the page, and we can move it to the end. It doesn't need to be there. We can identify all the fonts and everything else that's slowing down the page. We can also look for scripts and code that aren't being used anymore because it's all just right there in front of you. Another thing I'll do is a lot of time branding teams will come in and say, no, this is the messaging that we have to use, and this is what we want for our thing, for our product or our service or our content, when in reality, that's what they want. That's not what the end user or what the search engines think. And if you're not going to give the proper words and the proper message to your users, then you're not going to get those users. So what I do is I make that same branding team, we will go on a video call outside, both of us, and we will start saying the H1 tag and the top blurb to random people in the street and say, what does this mean? What do we offer? What do we do? 9 times out of 10, people can't answer and they have no idea. And it really drives it home. Especially, I've made a Fortune 500 CEO actually stand outside and say what his branding team made us put on the website. Did not go well. But it drove the point home that nobody knows what it is we do or sell or what the content of the article is supposed to be. And this is a great way to start to make it resonate. Okay, let's give the messaging while keeping branding intact so there's a good balance. So it really just depends on what the goal is and what we're looking at for page experience.
That's great. And the other thing I wondered about is when we're talking about link building and getting in front of news media and, you know, people who might give you a relevant link, what tips do you have to stand out in a jam-packed inbox?
Avoid wee-wee syndrome and compliment them. Count, and I did this actually with a client yesterday. I said, your email was not the best it could have been. They were like, why? We covered everything. I was like, that's the problem. Let's go through and read this. And every time a sentence starts with I, we, ours, or my, I put a finger up. And if those words appeared in the sentence again, they get 2 fingers for each one. So within the first 3 sentences, we had already hit 10 fingers pointing up. I was like, how is this about the journalist? They were like,
right.
Because they write about this topic. I was like, but it's not about the journalist. About the journalist means you've read 2 or 3 of their articles and probably visited their social media. So what I do is I look for an older article that they're probably proud of and a recent one that are both topically relevant. And then I say, hey, I really thank you for your article about this, this, and this. The point about halfway down where you mention WordPress versus Wix versus Duda, for example, and the way that you called out the brand new features that launched I had no idea that you could do this with X, Y, and Z CRM systems or CMS systems. So then you want to say, I also noticed you updated here where you have WordPress versus Squarespace. Have you considered doing a comparison chart and maybe adding XYZ in? And XYZ would be the new client. Just introduce it and say they have these features, including the ones you personally enjoyed in your review under the pros and cons list here. And now what you're doing is you're showing you actually read it and you're giving a reason to include. And you're saying this is the only one, or you can say XYZ company has this feature just like this company and just like that one, but it's not available there. And they're actually doing this. I work with them and I would be happy to give you a complimentary account if you'd like to review it. If it's just a product page, like we're both wearing t-shirts. So maybe it's the top 30 t-shirts or like the best 30 t-shirts for interviewing on Search Engine Journal. So we go in and we see Cosmopolitan and Refinery 29 and Rolling Stone and all these other publications. 1, you're going to need an affiliate program because they're all affiliate sites now. And 2, you're going to also need to cater to the journalists. Well, that's actually not true because the journalists in those publications specifically do have editorial control and not everything on those lists has to be an affiliate link. It just helps, which means you don't get your backlink because it's going to go through a 307 redirect. But and this is me rambling and I'm sorry, please keep me focused.
You're good. You're good.
For hours.
That is a lot of great advice. And as an editor, I can tell you, we can smell it a mile away if you've just dropped our name in there and didn't actually like put any homework into what the publication is about and why we would link to you. And yeah, if what did you call it? Me-we syndrome? If you're just talking about yourself, you're just that guy in the corner at the party. Nobody wants to talk to. Nobody wants to give you a link. Well, thank you, Adam. I really appreciate your time.
Can I finish the one
Yes,
part
yeah.
real quick? Sorry. So when you're going through that list, it's not enough. You can click on the author's name and you'll see all of the articles they've written. So what you want to do then, because we're going to be pitching our t-shirt, we want to say, okay, your article here, I had no idea that Lululemon produces t-shirts. And then say in your recent one, the third one down where you featured the green t-shirt with XYZ print is stunning. Thank you for the link off to Nordstrom. Our company offers this type of t-shirt, which is missing. It's made from an eco-friendly thing here, which I notice it may be a big topic for you because you wrote about eco-friendly hair ties and eco-friendly telephones. I'm just looking at stuff that's on, and it sounds weird. I have hair ties. I just bought them for my neighbor. But yeah, and that's how you get in front of them. You show that you actually paid attention. You thank them for their advice and you cater to what matters to them. Take out the mentions of I, we, and our and talk about them to them and compliment their work. And that's how you do it. We get out of every 5 emails we send, we get about 3 responses. And usually at least one of those turns into a yes, because we take the time. We don't have as much outreach, but it's more effective outreach.
Nice. I love that. There's no spray and pray happening.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Adam.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. And thank you, Faith, for the great question. We will have a transcript and some highlights from Adam's advice and the tips that he shared on searchenginejournal.com. So check that out. And you'll find a link there to submit your own questions for Ask an SEO. Until next time, thank you.
Hi, thanks for having me.